Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I'm joined by Dan Demsky. He's founder of Unbound Merino. How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, my friend.
Good.
Excellent. I feel like I'm in the routine of lockdown. I'm getting my vibe on, all that kind of stuff. So it is what it is.
Mhm.
So my first question, and one that I ask every single guest, is like, tell me about you, man. Tell me about what you do, what your business is about, and then we can go from there.
Well, I've been an entrepreneur for my entire working career, after school. I just sort of fell into it. I've had a few businesses, but for the past 2 years, I've been focusing on Unbound Merino. It's kind of the dream business I wanted to build, and it was built out of a lot of the mistakes I made in previous businesses and the things I didn't like about previous businesses. Even though I've had some success in other businesses, I'm like, I want to have a product. I want to sell that product online. That's the life I want. And I looked for years. And when I discovered my own need for the products that we now create with Unbound Merino, that was like the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
So since 2015, when we first came up with the idea, myself and my two best friends, who are my business partners, we worked away to get this thing started as a crowdfunding campaign. The crowdfunding campaign went really well. And ever since then, it's just been growing. We sell in over 100 countries now. It's all online. So we're a little bit resilient to the whole pandemic thing because we don't do any brick and mortar or any wholesale retail. So, there's challenges now, but I really am kind of living my best life doing this. I'm right where I need to be. The product is authentically us, and it's going well.
Good man. And I think you're underplaying the crowdfunding side of things. So if I'm right, it's saying it was 380,000 in 2 months.
That's right. Yeah, we tried to get a fundraise. We tried to raise 30,000, and we did 380.
All right,
so that was when we knew we had. I mean, the crowdfunding. I would never downplay it. It completely changed my life. It was a Hail Mary. We didn't have the capital to start this new idea. We believed in the idea, but we did a crowdfunding campaign because we thought this thing made sense. But not only did we think we can't risk starting this without a crowdfunding campaign because we don't have the capital, it's also like we don't know if people want this. We might think this is a good idea. So crowdfunding solved those two major hurdles to starting a business. It's like, here's the from pre-orders, here's the capital to start the business. And also it's validating whether the idea makes any sense, right? Like, do people want this? And this was our chance to pitch the idea and have people say they do want it, but by backing it with actual purchases. So once that crowdfunding campaign was done, we thought, holy, we actually have a business. Like this could potentially be a real business. So
what was the initial time period that you wanted to raise that initial 30,000 in?
We just did a 30-day campaign. And then toward the end of that campaign, they give you an option to extend it for 30 days. So we're like, why not? Let's just keep it going. I mean, it's going well. So
how did it feel when you crossed the 30 and it didn't stop? It just carried on going up.
It was kind of like a sort of a dream. It was very surreal because, a lot of the first, $10,000 in sales were a lot of people I knew, their friends and family. And we really pushed for that. We really made sure that we can get at least 30% of our fundraising goal, just so it looked like we had some momentum. We really, really rallied the support of the people in our world. But then after that initial 10,000, we started seeing orders from Germany and from the UK and from Japan and all over the world. And it started getting really exciting. It was almost like addictive, like I'd go to sleep and I'd be like, I'm going to check the campaign one more time, like I was so into it because it was the thing I've waited years to do. Like I know that I want to create a business like this. And I think now we finally put the key in and we've unlocked it a little bit. So it was super addictive. But once that 2 months was done, the excitement was still there, but then that was replaced with a little bit of anxiety. But we got this really cool start and we were validated that this idea we thought might make sense, makes some sense, but this is not a business. This was just a crowdfunding campaign. Until we have a website and people are going on the website and they're purchasing off our website and we have word of mouth and we have other marketing avenues that are acquiring new customers, then only then will it be a real business. So we tried not take, we weren't out celebrating, popping champagne like we've done something amazing. We're like, we were given this chance now. Let's take it seriously and not take ourselves too seriously. Let's go with the same the same level of anxiety that this might not work, but we think it can and should work. That same intensity that helped us build that crowdfunding campaign. Let's build a business now. And we thought of those as two very different things. So in that 2 months of the crowdfunding campaign, I was just high on the campaign. Like, this is working. This is working. All is well. All is well. When it was done, it was like, that was nice.
Time to do work now.
Time to roll up our sleeves. Let's do this again.
Yeah. Amazing. And then the 3 years since the campaign, you've grown to what, $4 million revenue?
Yeah, in our 3rd year. And it's, you know, growth was stifled a little bit by this pandemic, but we're doing okay. But we're still growing. So, you know, I think right now what our focus is what are all the things that we were doing maybe a little bit poorly, or what areas were we weak in that we were taking for granted because things were really good and growing, you know, pre-COVID. Now, since COVID, we had this big like sales dip, and then we're like, okay, well, what do we do to get it back up? So now we're in this like almost like a rebuild, and we're getting so much stronger and better. But it's an exciting time because so many people now are moving to a sort of digital first life. And that if you're a software company or, you know, or an e-commerce based company, all the behaviors that some people were slower to adopt, they're now adopting at a rapid rate. So we're trying to say, okay, we have a huge opportunity coming out of this. What do we do? So we're working harder than ever. And it feels like the crowdfunding days again. Like, it has that excitement that, like,
did you miss those days then?
No, but I cherished them. They were so fun because it was such I mean, it took 1.5 years to build that campaign, and we would do it on weekends between, you know, running other businesses. And my other business partner he was a creative director at an ad agency, and he has kids. And how do we like squeeze the time in? So we'd meet at Friday nights at 8 p.m. and we'd work until either we're too tired or we drank too much whiskey, you know,
one or the other.
Yeah, we'd meet at 6 a.m. before he had to go to work, and he'd have to be done at 8:30. You know, we just squeeze in, and then we had this thing, and there was this moment of excitement. And now the fear of like, wow, the whole world is changing. How do we get ahead of this and make sure that we're resilient to it? Kind of like ignites that excitement a bit. So we're up late again. We're doing like, it's fun, but it's wartime, you know?
Yeah, completely. For you, why is it that some, you know, like you said, so many people are trying to do the e-commerce world, trying to make it a success? Why do you think you guys have made it a success over there? Is it just because of your products and your offering, or is there something else?
Well, it's a good question. I think a lot of, you know, in the process of when we knew that we wanted to create a product and sell it online, we would go on a whiteboard and come up with ideas. And the ideas, some of them were terrible and some of them might have been good, but we didn't pursue. And we were just trying to think, well, what is it that we could sell online that might work? And some of the ideas were just us really reaching like this could work. There might be maybe we could find a market for this. But it wasn't until I was looking for merino wool clothing in the way that we now make it, and I couldn't find it, where I had that aha moment. I've seen this before with friends of mine who have started very successful e-commerce businesses. Is they started it because they saw what was out there was really bad, or it didn't exist, and they thought, well, why don't I bring this to the market? Because I see the opportunity. So
super common.
Yeah, so I felt like I'm going to create this crowdfunding campaign with Andrew and Dima, my two business partners. And if it doesn't work, good, that's fine. Because then at least I satisfied the itch, you know, scratched the itch of maybe this will work. And on top of that, I'll have created the prototype clothing, and I'll have a bunch of the clothing I want anyway. So this really was born on my own desire for this to exist. And because I really couldn't find it in the right way, not just in terms of the product, the style, and the fit, but also the positioning, like all the brands really that did do merino wool, they were making more of an activewear kind of product. It looked that way. It was not what I was looking for. But also in terms of like the brand and messaging, which matters, it didn't speak to me. So I thought like, we could do this. Like we could do this. It wasn't until I had that moment of clarity that there's something in the market that's missing, and I know exactly the way I want to position it. And that kept me up at night. I actually went to a business coach that I know who's a good friend, and I ran this whole idea. I said, this is why I think this could make sense. And I had another company I was starting at the time, and we made funky socks, and it was not really able to get it off the ground. And I had a video production agency, which was my core business where I took my salary from. And I pitched this whole idea of this merino wool company to him. And he said, Dan, that's amazing. That's a great idea. But you're not the guy to do this business.
Ouch.
And I was like, what? Right. And this is a guy I really respect. And he really, like, you know, really, really smart guy, worked very successful companies. And he said, you're struggling to stay afloat, just like running your company and then starting up the sock business. How are you going to add a third? Like, how are you going to, the problem is you're not going to do any of them well if you're, and he was right. But I couldn't sleep at night. I was going to bed with my eyes wide open. I'm like, this is the idea though. This is it. And everything was stacked against me. Like everything. Like it was, I didn't have the money. I didn't have the energy. You know, I was starting to not believe in myself. I built my career on like almost obnoxious belief in myself when I was younger. And, you know, you go through challenges in business and then sort of beat that belief out of me. I'm like, maybe I'm not that great. And I was down and up. I'm like, I know this idea could work.
Yeah.
I believe in it.
For all of that, this was still keeping you up, still driving you on.
I had to do it because from all the things I saw, like the story just made sense. I'm like, this is the idea, that this is the opportunity. I've seen my friends who have been very successful have this moment.
Yeah.
They identified this moment I'm in right now. And if I don't do it, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. So that was one of the motivations of crowdfunding. Is like, at least I could do this to the best of my ability and it will work if people just pre-order. And I don't have to risk much that I didn't even have anyway. And I promise you, like, I was so at wit's end with my other business that if this didn't work, I was going to go apply for a job for the first time. I don't even know how to write a resume. In fact, when people apply to work with us, I don't read resumes. I don't care about the resume. So I'm like, how am I going to write it? But this was it. This was like that last play of the game.
You see the whole jigsaw.
Just throwing the football, hoping it can get a touchdown. Yeah. And I know you're in the UK. That's weird. There's a different football over here. So that analogy, man. I'm sure you know what I'm talking
about. Rugby. Anyway, so it's like your footballs are rugby.
Yeah, kicking the soccer ball or football, whatever. You know what I mean.
Oh, everyone knows what you mean. It's all good.
Yeah. That was it. So I just went against the word of this business coach, and I'm so happy that we still believed. And that was the powerful thing. Is like, I just believe it can happen. You know.
Have you spoken to that coach since? And I told you so.
A little bit. I don't really. I told you because I don't. I think his advice made sense.
Yeah,
but sometimes you have to just ignore what might seem like good advice, right? Like,
especially if it's doing what it was doing to you. You know, keeping you up. It was that itch that you couldn't scratch. That last piece of the jigsaw that you couldn't quite touch yet.
Yeah, and you know what? If you really think about it, with all the Netflix that people watch and stuff like that, it's like we did this on the sidelines. You know. My business partner had his kids now are 7 and 5. So they were a lot younger then, like really at an age of like really just needing him to be a full on, like he didn't have the flexibility he has now, even though he still has little, still has young ones. He could only work Friday nights at 8 p.m. So we had to do that for a year and a half. That was the only time we could work with him. With me, it was like whenever I was done my work day. So instead of watching Netflix, I was just working on this project. It's just like piecing this thing together, doing research, talking to people, learning, making video assets, everything I could do. And it was fun.
How did you go about finding your business partners? Were they friends or were they strangers and you sought them out?
Well, they've been my best friends since grade school. So it's the 3rd grade and the 4th grade. And one of them worked with me for ever. I mean, even just the part-time jobs we used to have as kids, we worked together. We worked at a grocery store, at the movie theater, and then when he's my right-hand man. And when I started my first business, he worked with me from day one, right until the end. And I just knew that I needed him because I'm kind of like the dreamer and a lot of the vision and a lot of the relationships and the ideas. And I came to them. This is the idea. He is a guy who could sit down with his head down and just grind anything out, So we work really well together, but we were really, really struggling getting like, how do we position this thing? And it was missing some creative energy. So the 3rd business partner we brought in, thinking he could sort of round out the team. Like we have like a good idea and we think a good market for this. My other business partner, Andrew, who's a workhorse, but we just didn't feel like we had the brand. We couldn't really we brought in Dima and he sort of connected the whole thing together and it just worked like immediately. So it was just like, but you know what? Right now, working with them, it's like we're really hard on each other. We're very candid with each other, but it's all out of love. We've been best friends our whole lives. We're like family. So sometimes people say business and friendship don't mix. I will argue that till the day I die, because you can really separate the business and the friendship and fuse them in any way you want. And if you're really friends and you really care about each other and you want the best for each other, you're probably in a good position to be in business together, because that's a good, like a partnership is a marriage.
Yeah, it's
and
good
you have
energy.
to really, you have to make sacrifices, and you have to be there for the other person and understand the person, patient, but also challenge them to be better and want to see them get better and help be the person to help them see those blind spots so they can be better and grow. So I'm loving it. I'm so lucky that every single day I get to work with my best friends, and we can scream at each other if we need to, and it's all out of love, and things are always good in the end. So I'm happy. It's one of the best things that I have going in my life.
Yeah, I'm very glad to hear that. So after the I want to go back a little bit. After the crowdfunding campaign finished, what did you do to keep up momentum in terms of what was like your channel to advertising after that crowdfunding?
Well, we were surprised that when we launched our website, we didn't do a big launch yet. We just sort of put up a Shopify site. We're still tinkering with it, adding the pictures, and we were planning a big launch so that we could say, now we're here. We've already we acquired our first 2,000 customers from the crowdfunding campaign. So we're like, let's use that in the mailing list, and then we're going to do a launch, and then we're going to figure out what our marketing is going to be from there. But once we had our website live but not yet announced, we went in to change some pictures and change some copy on the website, and we noticed there were already a bunch of orders in the back end. And we're like, what? Where are these people even finding us? And that's when we discovered, okay, we actually have a business, maybe, because the word of mouth already had some momentum of its own, right? So the word of mouth right out the gate was a thing. And also customers coming back and reordering was a thing. So we had a little bit of momentum to start. It wasn't until I met a business founder here who's just an unbelievable woman. She has a company called Nixwear. And by happen chance, I was at a dinner and she was there, and she was telling me about the importance of Facebook ads and how much it's helped her grow her company. So I had a call with her, and we decided that was going to be our first way of acquiring new customers after the crowdfunding campaign. We know my old business is a video production agency, so we could do videos and we could do photography really well. Like, that was just an unfair advantage that we had. And Dima, the third partner that came in, he was a creative director at an ad agency. So in terms of like copywriting for ads, I'm like, we can just do this. Let's just do it ourselves. Let's not hire an agency. Let's just make that our thing. And we focused all our energy on only that. We weren't worried about Google ads. We weren't worried about SEO. Let's just laser focus on the one thing that we'll put all our energy into. And that was Facebook ads. And it was, and it's still amazing for us. But back then, the performance of these Facebook ads was like, it was insane. And we couldn't keep inventory in stock. We were starting to sell this stuff so fast that our biggest problem was we had to rush our suppliers and airship things in, and just like people would be complaining because they're like, what's the point of you running these ads? You don't have any stock. So we had to pull our ads off, restock. And that was our big problem for years. We were just selling our stuff out too fast, which is the best problem ever.
Good problem to have, right?
Yeah. So that was it. And we still a major focus of ours, but what we do is we focus on one thing at a time. So it was Facebook ads, it was crowdfunding, then Facebook ads. Then, we outsourced SEO. So that is an ongoing thing because it's not really our expertise, but anything we focus on, we focus all of our energy on it, one thing at a time.
And let's talk about current events then. You mentioned there's been a little bit of dip due to the obviously coronavirus and obviously a huge push from other digital people becoming more online and trying to do more e-commerce. How are you guys faring up? And in terms of what you're polishing up and changing for the future to sort of future-proof yourself, what are you doing?
Well, I'll tell you why we took a lot of people took a big hit at first because everyone in the world was scared. And a lot of people were losing their income.
Things were shut down or everything shut.
Right. But the thing with Unbound Merino is we've been positioned as a product that helps you pack less when you travel. that was our positioning, and we really focused on that. Now it's the clothing is high performance, simple clothing. I mean, right now I'm wearing it. I don't need. It's not. It doesn't only work for travel. It's great clothing for everyday life. But that was our positioning, and we spent years, especially with our Facebook ads, iterating on that messaging of how to make the perfect like travel clothing and like message. And we A/B tested, and we tweaked it, and we had this beautiful thing going, this marketing engine that all of a sudden, like this, the whole travel industry is dead. And all of that tweaking and A/B testing that made us come up with that really good marketing engine for a travel product was now complete garbage. So we went to the drawing board and said, okay, we have to pivot what our messaging is and our angle of what this brand is, either temporarily or permanently. And we decided that travel it served us very well. We've done really well, but what we are is much bigger than just a travel product. And everything that we've pitched about what makes our clothing so great for travel, it applies to beyond travel. And a lot of our customers already know that, and they buy our clothing for more than just the trip they're going on. So we had to go into a whole, and we're in the process of it right now. So it's our website, it's our Instagram, it's all of our Facebook ads and Google ads and our blog posts and everything. It's like, how do we become bigger than just a travel product? So we had this big hit because everything we were was a travel brand. That messaging wasn't working. And now we're clawing back out as people are starting to be comfortable to spend again. And the world is there's a little bit more normalcy in the world right now. It's still weird, but it's a little more normal. A little more normal.
Yeah.
And all the while we're changing to become a message that fits in. We're not going all into that be comfy at home like a lot of companies are doing right now, which is a good message. That's what everyone's living right now. We're trying to stand tall through this whole pandemic thing and envision who are we as the strongest version of ourselves when this whole thing is said and done. And we're focusing all of our energy on that. And we've done well at getting back to normal in terms of like, our revenues and all that stuff. We're kind of back to normal, which feels great. But
yeah, it must feel amazing.
Well, it felt better before when we were on this like insane growth trajectory. But I'll take.
But now you're back to the drawing board, like you said. You're back in that war room.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I'm really happy.
It's one of those things.
At the end of the day, we're becoming just so much better and smarter through this whole thing.
Exactly. It's one of those things where if it didn't happen, things may have got really like you might have started to slip in certain areas
without even realizing it.
Exactly. Whereas
this is for granted.
Exactly. I think this is the same with most businesses or most business owners that are, I would say, half decent. This gives them that time to relook at their business, relook at their messaging, relook at who they're working with. And the amount of people that I know that probably, to be quite frank, that hate their own business, it's a really amazing time for them because they get the chance to press pause and actually find out what they really want, which is a unique time, like you said.
That's kind of a theme for every person right now. It's not even just in business. It's like I'm at home. It's important for me to stay active, so I'm trying to be active with all I have is a yoga mat and one kettlebell. That's all I have. Well, I better make it work, and I can't go out to all the restaurants and takeout places I used to like rely on.
Yeah.
So I'm cooking, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of liking this cooking, and I'm eating pretty well, and I'm reevaluating how I just live day to day. I think everyone's reevaluating everything. And we're going to come out of this with a new sense of a lot of people with a new sense of purpose, a new sense of direction that applies to business, applies to individuals. And
100%. I really hope that is the case anyway.
Well, a lot of people just get back to normal. They're just waiting for.
Of course. Some people never even left their normal. So it is what it is. So if we're future pacing a little bit, then what do you want to do with this brand? What do you want to do with this business? Where's it going?
Well, we really have, we want to grow the business. We have a lot of growth metrics that are just straight business growth goals, but really, I mean, we really believe in what we stand for. And, our core purpose is freedom through simplicity. And all of our clothing is very simple. A lot of times people buy our stuff. It's almost like a uniform to them. They'll buy 10 black crew neck t-shirts. And that's just what they wear every day. And because of it's antibacterial and odor resistant in the way it performs, you don't need to wash it as much. It's biodegradable and sustainable, so it's better for the environment. You don't have to wash as much, so you're less energy consumption. We're kind of like we've always sort of lived a kind of minimalist life. As weird as it is, we're selling a product, but it's sort of anti-consumerism. It's like we're the antithesis to fast fashion and needing to keep up with the trends. Like everything we make, we do it with the intention of we're making an item of clothing that if you were wearing this in a picture 10, 20 years ago, it would look completely normal. And if we're going to have a picture of you in 10, 20 years from now, it's going to look normal. It's the classic, simple apparel that like you could always wear. You can dress up, dress down. And I just love knowing that there are people out there that buy our clothing and they sort of adopt that minimalist life where they're not thinking about, I need to buy clothing all the time and thinking about outfits. It's like it's creating a form of simplicity in their life that allows them to focus on the things that matter, their families, the adventures they go on, the trips and stuff. And that was sort of our purpose with travel. It was pack less, experience more. It was about packing light, so you didn't have to check your luggage. You can just zip through the luggage carousel. Because when you travel, it's not about all the outfits you wear. It's really about getting into that, that in Germany, you want to go to that beer hall or that football match. Yeah. So that's what life is about. And we've really, really honed in on that in our travel message, but it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
So while we have a lot of business goals, really what matters to us is really the why behind why we started this whole thing. It's freedom from my old life. I hated my old business. So the business, even just from a business model standpoint, caters to that desire I have to live free and to live, but still creating value for the world. I'm not here for some permanent vacation. I like being in the war room. I like building the business, but there is a why behind it. And that is the freedom through simplicity that applies to so much more than just the clothing that we make or what our brand is. It's really the way I want to live my life. My business partners want to live their life. And that's the why. So just being behind that message and feeling good about it and knowing that that's what we communicate in our growth, it gives me purpose every day. And I feel like I can jump out of bed. And
your energy is amazing.
Well, thank you. I had a big Red Bull right before I started.
Oh, well, there we go. It's there's the secret behind everything. Red Bull. They get behind everything.
They should sponsor me.
You look like you could be like a Red Bull, like BMX rider or something. I don't know.
I wasn't joking.
There you go.
Where my energy comes from.
Nice.
It's not innate. It's Red Bull.
It's if Red Bull want to sponsor this podcast as well, that'd be amazing. I'm more than happy. I can fill these shelves up with Red Bull. I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, we'll both forward this episode to Red Bull.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We get our own sponsorships.
I'm sure it will happen. Sure it will happen. But listen, Dan, one of my last questions to you is, if someone wanted to do what you do in terms of create that business online, e-commerce, following that really strong why message, no matter what sort of industry they're in, from your 3 years, 4 years of learning, what would you give them if they were sat across from you on the table? What would be like 3 key things that you would tell them to do?
The most important thing for sure is don't overthink it. Just start. Because this is not my first business. I founded one company. It was pretty successful to start. My second business, I wasn't a founder, but I was a partner in and got bought out of. The third was the sock company, which I was never really able to take off the ground, and then Unbound Merino. And I think what's really worked well for me is just the fact that we just started. And even the things that didn't work, you learn from them. It's like it's there. I don't regret starting the sock company, even though I probably lost money on it. I'm proud of that brand. I think it was cool. But the main thing I learned from that was we started a funky sock company when funky socks were starting to become pretty cool in a lot of big cities. And that's the wrong time to start a company. If it's already cool, you're too late. And if I never had that experience, I wouldn't have made the connection that this merino wool business is not, it's early. If we started this now, this is before people, and I'm telling you, people are really turning on to it now. There will be a real awakening of how incredible this fabric is. It's like people think of premium performance materials, and they could think of like cashmere, or they can think of the technical cashmere like Kit and Ace does, which is good in its purpose. It has its function. Merino wool is going to be like that, but I felt like people don't really know this yet. So if I hadn't started and had my own failures, I would never really tune in to the things that would make it successful. So I think just don't overthink things, just start. If you think too much, you're just going to miss the boat every time and you'll regret it. You should just start. The other main thing is like, really, it's like, it's the timing thing. People don't often talk about it. If you're trying to make the next ride sharing app or something, you're too late, you know. Really look for that thing that you could bring it into the market in a way, not just in terms of it doesn't exist, but maybe it's people are not speaking to people like you. I listened to a podcast with the founders of Brook Linen, and they make linen for beds, like bed sheets and duvet covers and stuff like that. And they said like all bedding companies were positioned towards definitely women and tended to be older women. And the guy's like, I kind of like went to hotels and felt like, man, I need to get good bed sheets, but there was no brand that spoke to like younger people, but maybe more gender neutral, men too.
Very true.
So it's just they're just selling bed sheets, right? They're not inventing anything, but they're giving you really high quality ones, but their positioning was to new people, right? So I think that really understanding like where you could fit in and the timing of that really matters. And then the third thing is just belief. Like if you don't believe, no one's going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. And sometimes what I would do is, even when I had my doubts, I'd suppress I would never mention them to other people. I would never say, I don't know, you know. I would always be the guy that's like, this is going to work. And I believed it. Sometimes I sort of had a little bit, but I quieted the doubts. I think that's a really powerful force. It's just you frame your mind around the belief and get at it, because that was contagious to my business partners who, to varying degrees, still believe in it, but not like me. Like I'm like, this is going to work. Dima is what he actually said to me after. He's like, honestly, I can't believe it worked. I didn't think it was going to work. I'm like, you didn't think it was going to work? Why were you spending all this time? He's like, I don't know. It was the most fun I had every week, you know, after going to his job, which he didn't want to go to. And then he loves his kids, but it's a whole lot of work. And then his kids go to bed on Friday night, he'd crack the whiskey and hang out with his buddies. That was all he cared about. But if I didn't believe, there wouldn't be that energy in it. So you have to believe in yourself and convince yourself that it's possible. It's a really powerful force.
For sure. Totally agree. Dan, listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. If anyone wants to like find out more about you, get on your website, what is the best way for them to do that?
We could find us anywhere, like Instagram and Facebook and such, just Unbound Merino, Merino. And I'm Dan Demsky, everywhere, DANDEMSKY. And I'd love to connect with people.
Perfect.
And I want to thank you for having me, and thanks to our sponsor Red Bull for keeping the energy going, you know.
Thanks to Red Bull for making sure putting us together and making this a thing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on. And
my pleasure.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. This has been Founders 365.